Tonight, Q gives us a sneak preview of the global power struggle that is ahead after Bruce Orr exposes the United Kingdom and Australia in their broad conspiracy with the Hussein administration to spy on President Trump. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. For those of you who don't know, every episode starts the same way. I say thank you to all my subscribers because there's always new subscribers, and I'm so thankful to everybody who has come here and hit this button. If you haven't hit it, please come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell notifications so you'll be notified when these videos get posted. Here we are. We're going to just go right into it. We have a lot to cover here, and we're just going to start right here with the Sarah A. Carter article from SarahACarter.com. And this article actually lays a few big puzzle pieces out, as Q basically tells us here. It says, who is systematically arranging the leaks to select individuals? Why is this important to drop prior to Bruce Orr testimony? Well, we all know Bruce Orr. Bruce Orr was the fourth in command at the Department of Justice and one of the primary players when it comes to setting up alleged firewalls, which they talk about in their own text messages to one another, with Christopher Steele in regard to basically stopping President Trump from becoming the President of the United States. Those are the allegations, and this is what we're going to actually dive into. This article right here, it's a good read. I'm going to definitely post a link to this if you guys want to read it. It's off SarahACarter.com, and it talks about how this person right here, this guy, whose name, let's see, is Adam Lovinger, was a former Defense Department analyst, and he's the one who stumbled upon this whole thing kind of accidentally. Became a whistleblower in I guess 2016 or 17. And what he did was he exposed the fact that Stephen Halper was a Cambridge professor who was actually working as a Russian spy, but not the kind of Russian spy you'd imagine. Kind of a double agent type deal where he was working for the Americans, but then for the Russians. And it was kind of like this really weird situation. But what it all kind of coalesces down to is that Stephen Halper played a huge role in this Christopher Steele dossier and the renewal of the FISA warrant. All of that, he played a big role, but he played a big role all the way before the whole President Trump thing got started. He played a big role all the way back to when General Flynn, okay, basically one of the top generals in the Obama administration, and somebody who actually saw a big problem. Now, what was that big problem that General Flynn was trying to point out and bring to people's attention? Well, General Flynn didn't agree with the characterization of what was going on with Afghanistan and Iraq and other hot spots in the Middle East and other places where President Obama was actually boasting, along with the intelligence agencies, that we had defeated ISIS and other terrorist organizations. According to this article, that is not the opinion shared by General Flynn when it comes to what we were actually doing, which to me just screams that General Flynn was a patriot trying to point out that, we were getting these false representations of what was going on. And then while in the meantime, you had people like John McCain going to Syria and setting up deals with Bashar al-Baghdadi, who turns out to be the leader of ISIS, which is the Islamic State in Syria. That is what ISIS means. If you talk about the Islamic State in Libya, it would be ISIL. If you talk about the Islamic State in Afghanistan, it would be ISA or ISIA. I don't know. But that is what it is. But they're all basically of the same ideology. But point being that General Flynn was pointing out that there was some very big discrepancies in how these organizations got started, and then the fact that we were winning, was that really the truth, so on and so forth, and that's pretty much why he came under fire. But what this article talks about is that this Adam Lovinger, right, I believe, yeah, Adam Lovinger, was raising concerns about the fact that in diplomatic meetings with foreigners on behalf of the U.S. government, you have Stephen Halper making decisions basically for the U.S. federal government. And Stephen Halper, for those of you who don't know who he is, we'll scroll down here. This is him. We've had a video on him before. He's, a person who was put into the sphere of Trump during the election, during the campaign. This is a person that was put out with basically the way this story paints the picture is that this guy, Stephen Halper, has had connections with Russia and connections with the Obama administration's intelligence community and others, where he was basically put in as a spy of the Trump campaign in order to collect information to give to the intelligence organization or agencies under Barack Obama before President Trump became the president of the United States. Now, that to me is something that is still yet to be determined fully, but it seems like all of the circumstantial evidence that we have here in abundance would point to the fact that that's what his role was. Now, not to mention that this guy basically ran a school with classes where he co-hosted these classes, co-taught these classes with Russian intelligence officials, co-taught them. And not only that, he would, have the ambassadors from Russia come in and give these long speeches about their service in the Foreign Intelligence Service and what they did with President Putin and all of those other things and their connections with the British and the U.S. So that is something that's very suspect, and that's something this article goes into as well. Also, another source basically comes and lays it out basically that Lovinger was raising concerns at the Pentagon in 2016 and noted that Halper went far beyond his work as a contractor after he discovered that the amount of money the professor was being paid for his research did not make sense. So these are concerns that Adam Lovinger brought up, and he was basically summarily kicked out and stripped of his security clearance immediately based on the fact that he was asking questions about these individuals who were obviously working against the President of the United States. Now, George Papadopoulos, one of the other central figures in this Trump hoax, spying, whatever you want to call it, basically this lays out the fact that Papadopoulos, who was a Trump campaign volunteer, was invited to London, and he was lured with a $3,000 paycheck to work on a research paper under contract. By this time, the young Trump campaign volunteer had already been in contact with London-based professor Joseph Mifsud, who had basically informed him that the Russians had damaging material about Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. So what happened here? They were lured. They were lured with information that, if true, we would want to know. So there's no criminality behind wanting to know if there's actual evidence that an official who is running to become president of the United States has been, illegally involved with criminal activities. But that's what they used as their, reason to spy on the Trump campaign, because this is tying it all together about how they saw their Russia collusion. How Robert Mueller basically got this guy to spend $1 million, I think, or something in that vein, defending himself, George Papadopoulos, that is, to get him to confess to a guilty plea of lying to an FBI agent, and to which he's actually kind of stood by the fact, his wife has at least, that he's innocent and that it was basically because there was no money left for his own legal defense to stand up against what was happening. Then the best part of all comes in, which is Halper and Michael Flynn, which talks about how back when Michael Flynn was the director of the intelligence agency there, or the Defense Intelligence Agency, that because General Flynn was asking questions about the validity of comments being made by the White House regarding the way that ISIS was being defeated and how, kind of not giving the true scope of what was going on in the battlefield at that time and actually misleading the American people, he was then targeted by Stephen Halper, among others, in a coordinated effort to get him out of power very quickly. He says Flynn was pushed out by Obama and then became a thorn in the side of Obama and the Clintons when he joined the Trump campaign. And that would explain a lot as to why he was pushed out. And it says the investigation into Trump didn't start with Carter Page or George Papadopoulos, but with Flynn. Flynn was already on the CIA and Clinton target list. Those same people sure as hell didn't want him in the White House, and they sure as hell didn't want Trump to win. So to me, this is a direct quote that you guys have to read and kind of understand for yourselves. And you need to read through this whole article and how it makes these connections between Halper, who had told the FBI that he witnessed concerning interactions between this Russian academic, Svetlana Lokova, and Flynn at the February 2014 seminar dinner. But Flynn and them both basically thought it was a joke because they said, well, we sat next to each other, maybe we had a conversation, but where did Stephen Halper get off? But that was the reason they used to start spying on Flynn, to start spying on the intelligence agency, those inside of it who didn't toe the party line, who didn't toe the fake news line that they needed to get out there. So I think that's what that's basically laying out for us, and saying who is systematically arranging the leaks to select individuals. Well, possibly Stephen Halper. That may be something to look into. And it says, why is this important to drop prior to Bruce Ohr testimony? Because it's going to connect a lot of dots once we start looking into how Bruce Ohr connects back to President Trump and the illegal investigation into his campaign, the illegal spying, all the stuff that went down that was ordered by the Hussein administration, mind you. Now, the next post here says, focus here, and it's a quote from the article we just read. It says, raised troubling questions about Halper, who is believed to have worked with the CIA and part of the matrix of players in the Bureau's Crossfire Hurricane investigation into Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. Halper, who assisted the FBI in the Russia investigation, appears to also have significant ties to the Russian government, as well as sources connected directly to President Vladimir Putin. Well, there you go. See, whatever they're guilty of, that's what they want to project onto President Trump. And that's the sickest and worst part of it all. So now it says here, if you keep reading, it says, define projection. Democrats scream when POTUS meets with Putin. Democrats demand to hold hearings with the interpreter used during the private POTUS-Putin meeting. Democrats demand all meetings with POTUS be canceled. It says, if POTUS knows everything, control over what organizations are central to operational success: Department of Justice, FBI, NSA, U.S. military, State Department, foreign assets. Ask yourself, if above are central to operational success, who would you pick to lead such organizations? HRC election loss equals Clinton Foundation inflow stop. Clinton Foundation inflow stop equals No Name Institute inflow ramp. Compare donors. Define dark money. Direct correlation. He did not depart on his own terms. Think Flynn. 30. Exactly 30. Q. Okay, so that packs so much into this. So first of all, this talks about Stephen Halper, which we just went over pretty much at length, but talking about his involvement with Operation Crossfire Hurricane, what happened in the UK, the putting together of the Steele dossier, and then their connections with the Russians. It's all projection. It's all them screaming that we're basically guilty of what they're actually guilty of. So if you look at it, that's what Q's basically trying to say. And now they're going off the interpreter that was in the meeting. It's all a show. It's all kabuki. It's all theater that they need to get out there in order to push their narrative forward. Now, they're trying to demand that we don't have a good relationship with Putin, but the reality is we want to have a good relationship with the Russians. I don't see why we would want to have a negative relationship with a country that has an immense nuclear power and has an immense natural resources. And, you know, presumably if we can all work together to define rights and to become better as individual states, hopefully, you know, they can become more integrated into what it means to be a Western country with true rights for their citizens. And, you know, that can definitely be a talk down the line, but it doesn't mean we have to go to war to force them to do anything other than to say, you know, we can work with you in peacetime to say that we can change these things. But it's saying, if POTUS knows everything, what control over what organizations are central to operational success? Well, it talks about how we've lost control over the last who knows how many Q posts of the DOJ, the FBI, and at times the NSA and the U.S. military and the State Department and the foreign assets. They've all been used against the United States and its citizens and its patriots in some form or fashion. And now we're taking control of these back. But it's saying, if above our central to operational success, who would you pick to lead such organizations? And that's why you have to look at who has been picked. The DOJ, we have Jeff Sessions. Obviously, Q said trust Sessions. There's a lot to say that there's a lot more investigations going on behind the scenes, and that President Trump's kind of taking the flack for that to cover, basically to give Jeff Sessions cover in order to let him do his job without the scrutiny of the press tearing him apart, which they would if they thought for 1 second that he was in line with the Trump agenda. Then you have the FBI, where we put Christopher Wray in, Of course, there's still yet to be seen how Christopher Wray will work out, but I mean, at this point, anything's better than Comey. Then you have the NSA. You had Mike Rogers, Admiral, did a great job, but then it's been transferred over now into under new leadership that presumably is still working for the President of the United States. You have the U.S. military, who is actually working day in and day out, I believe, with the President to make sure that we're safe and that we're secure, and that we should always be thankful to those men and women because they are the most important as far as the frontline battle goes. Then you have the State Department, who's out there, basically trying to be worked into the President Trump administration. I mean, you have the latest example where, Tucker Carlson did a great report talking about how South Africans were being basically genocided because of their race, and nobody's even blinking an eye at it. And the State Department was putting out statements saying, oh yeah, well, that's great. We support the South African government and their crazy genocidal homicide of, races, the racist homicide, genocide that they were committing. But then you had the Donald Trump tweet, and then you have a State Department of Corrections saying, look, we don't condone that kind of behavior, and we're going to look into it further. So that's, to me, what it's kind of laying out there. And we'll just keep going. It says HRC election loss, Clinton info stop, Clinton Foundation info stop. So when Hillary lost the election, they stopped donating to her foundation. But then, guess what happened? No Name McCain, you guys know him, the guy who just passed away a couple days ago, started getting an influx of donations. And why would that be? Well, because he's the only one left who they see as a compromised player who could take their money in order to effectively push their narrative, push their scheme into America. But look at what happened to him. And it says compared donors, define dark money. And what dark money is, and we'll just look at this really quick because I think it's worth noting. It's this part right here. It says, in politics, dark money is funds given to nonprofit organizations, and it includes these different organizations that can receive unlimited donations from corporations, individuals, and unions. They can spend funds to influence elections, but are not required to disclose their donors. So that, to me, is, I mean, that's the categorical definition of swamp money, in my opinion. Swamp money is dark money. It's money that's pumped in by who knows who into these nonprofits, then recycled into political campaigns to pay for their own agenda. And that's what is being explained here. And Q's going even further to say that dark money has been funneled into No Names Institute, which is now, well, I guess without No Names, not going to have much influence, especially if they don't end up putting Cindy McCain into John McCain's position, which I tend to really agree with, like C.J. Pearson and others, when they say, an elected office is not something you can just heretically give to the next of kin. It's an office that is held with the distinction of being elected, not, basically given. So I think that is something that is despicable that people suggest, oh yeah, we'll just put Cindy McCain in. It's like, what? How would the people of Arizona ever agree to that? I don't know. But Q is telling us to look at the direct correlation. And in the kill box here, which is interesting, it says, and we just talked about No Name, it says he did not depart on his own terms, but it's talking about think Flynn and 30 and exactly 30. Well, I'm not sure, but other than to say that there's a lot to be read out of this, and I'm going to actually probably be putting together an article about this later once I do a little more research, but I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments on what you think about what this is referring to. But my first take on it is basically that it's talking about General Flynn and how there was a reference to the 30 days with Flynn before. This is a previous Q, and you go all the way back here to April 27th, where Q gives us this done in 30 with the 30 in the Q box saying, why would Flynn plead guilty to something untrue? Define testimony. Define on record. Who knows where the bodies are buried? Flynn is safe. Expand your thinking, Q. So think about this. What if the 30-day marker or the 30 marker is something that we've been getting over a lot of different posts, going all the way back up to here, where it's asking us to look back on Flynn and his 30 day departure, but more overly, let's look back at what we just discussed in the last video. If you guys want to get caught up, I encourage you to come here and watch the last videos, but where it talks about how there was a direct reference to the fact that Q said on July 25th that, no name returning to the headlines, and then 30 days later, exactly, of course, John McCain passes away. So this is definitely something that needs to be looked at further, and I really think we need to keep exploring that further. And if I apologize for the late delay here, but if you're still scratching your head going, what's QAnon? Watch this video, share it, spread the link, get it out there, and it'll definitely be something that everybody will want to learn if they're trying to get involved with this. But here it's actually telling us, think Flynn exactly 30, so that's definitely a wink and a nod, in my opinion, to what's been going on there. So now we're going to get into the next piece, which is right here. We're going to talk about Q responding to his own post here, the one we just went over, saying, think for yourself, research for yourself, trust yourself. Clickbait opinions are designed to attract reader to subscribe and or follow and or shape a pre-designed narrative. Follow the facts, sheep no more, Q. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, the whole premise of what this channel is of course I ask for people to subscribe, but the reality is I tell you guys all this information I'm just presenting to you so you can think for yourself, so you can research for yourself, so you can trust the information that you're getting. But what I think Q is more overly pointing to are all of the headlines, the dozens and hundreds of headlines that are put up every single day saying, Q's fake, saying Q's not real, saying this is all some deranged conspiracy and that we're all basically Pizzagate on bath salts. That's what I think is being referenced there. And to me, we have to follow the facts. We have to follow exactly what Q is telling us here and what the facts that will come out in the broader scope of the investigation. Because the reality is that no matter what anyone says online or in a blog or in a podcast, whatever, the truth will be the truth. And that's what we have to be able to decipher through. And Q then points out, of course, the witch hunt and no deals, Q. So I think people are actually coming to Q right now behind the scenes saying, look, can you please, give me a deal? I'll confess, I'll do anything. But there shouldn't be deals for people who have committed these kind of crimes. And especially when they look at John McCain and what has been alleged to have happened to him, please, let's all keep that in mind as we move forward. Now, the next one's interesting. It's an Anon here who basically points to this tweet from Mark Meadows, who is a representative. And Mark Meadows says, we've learned new information suggesting our suspicions are true. FBI, DOJ have previously leaked info to the press and then used those same press stories as a separate source to justify FISAs. Unreal. Tomorrow's Bruce Orr interview is even more critical. Did he ever do this? And the Anon basically reiterates that last line here by repeating it. And Q just points to it. And it's so true. I mean, you have Mark Meadows here basically laying it out, saying, look, they used fake news stories that they planted themselves as a justification to get a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrant to basically spy on the Trump campaign. And if that doesn't make you go crazy, I don't know what will. So the next post here is even more interesting, and it goes through all of these fake news articles, but maybe not so fake if you just look at the story in its raw capacity. But here it's saying Bruce Orr to UK. Now, I don't know if it's clever play where we all know this is Bruce Orr, but could it be a clever play that this is actually saying Barack Obama? That would be my first question, because we have a very strong correlation between the Obama administration and all of these alleged things that have happened. So Bruce Orr could also represent Barack Obama. I'm just going to throw that out there for you guys, and you guys let me know what you think. But I'm going to read it as it is Bruce Orr. It says Bruce Orr to UK to Australia, then Australia to UK to Bruce Orr, then Bruce Orr to Alexander Downer. Five Eyes, example 1. Fake news blast, narrative shift, NEC, or NEC. Now, I'm not sure if NEC is the National Elections Council or the NEC, the company, the IT company, but that in mind, this is probably going to become very much reference in the future that we'll have to look back at. Here's a whole set of articles. Now, what do these articles explain? Well, we can look at them one by one. They all say the same thing. Tony Blair claims he warned Trump of UK spying, which is a complete fabrication. So basically, they made this allegation that Tony Blair said that he warned President Trump that he was being spied on. Now, how would Tony Blair have known that President Trump was being spied on? Well, probably because they were the ones authorizing it with Christopher Steele with regard to what happened with MI6 and the Secret Intelligence Service and the Australian Intelligence Service. So those are something to be noted. All these articles basically say the same thing, that Tony Blair warned Trump Donald Trump, the UK may have spied on him, but then in the same breath, the next one says that right here it says Tony Blair dismisses claims he warned Donald Trump. So it's basically this fake story type dynamic where you can see that Blair warned him, but then Blair says he didn't warn him, and you know how that goes, right? He denies it, but then he said he did it. So we'll have to see how that ends up playing out. But what that's basically laying out here is what's next. It says Bruce Orr unlocks UK foreign intelligence Five Eyes. UK foreign intelligence unlocks requirement. I think that's what that means, requirement. And it says requirement equals think highest levels. So to me, what requirement would be referring to, if that is what it's being said or required, if Bruce Orr is unlocking the fact that he had connections with Christopher Steele and the United Kingdom and foreign intelligence agencies through the Five Eyes, then who ordered him to do that? It had to be somebody higher than him. It's not like he went out, Bruce Orr, just one day and was like, oh, I'm just going to, change the whole election, go and, collude with foreign assets in order to undermine the democratic process in America. No, what ended up happening is he was ordered by somebody who, required the authorization or had that authorization and access from the highest levels. And it says focus too. It says this is, and it's quoting from the article that we read before, it says this is the case with Halper, who is now proven to be a spy, possibly with Australian ambassador Alexander Downer, who her husband met with in London. So Alexander Downer, for those of you who don't know, Alexander Downer was the Minister of Foreign Affairs during the Bush administration and a staunch, basically political player in the Australian syndicate for quite some time now. Was he that connection between the Australian intelligence and Bruce Orr? That's really the question. And it's saying Bruce Orr closed door necessary. Now, I'm not sure, again, that could be Barack Obama as well. I'm not going to speculate either way. But it says red-handed comms revealed to encourage truthful testimony. Now, it's saying 19 phone calls today, DC, UK, Australia, panic. Who are the firewalls? What will the fake news push tomorrow? Q. So who are the firewalls? Well, we've talked about this. I mean, the firewalls seem to be, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Bruce Orr. These people seem to be the key firewalls that were put in place to ensure that the departments would be able to, if President Trump won, secure the fact that he would be impeached by launching this fake, phony investigation. 19 calls could be a reference back to something that Q said a long time ago, talking about 19 people in a skiff in a room, basically on Capitol Hill, discussing what was happening. That could be a reference back to that, but I'll leave that to you guys in the comments. Let me know what you think as far as what the 19 phone calls could be revealing, other than the fact that it's people in DC calling the UK and Australia because they all know they're screwed because the truth is going to come out. So, and we'll have to look at the headlines tomorrow to see what the fake news is going to push against the president, as they always do. Now, in the next one, we're very interested because Q's responding to his own post, the one we just went through, with just this. The graphic that we know from, of course, General Michael Flynn's Twitter page, the hoo-ah background from the U.S. Army, and a big hoo-ah out there to all the soldiers who are, and Semper Fi to all the Marines, and, to every other branch, God bless you guys. Thank you for your service. Now, the next one is very interesting. So this last post that we're going to cover here, talks about these two YouTube videos. Now, what do they show? They show clips from this movie, The Sum of All Fears. Now, what is the plot of The Sum of All Fears? Well, the basic plot is that former factions of the Nazi government, what's left over of it, basically worked to smuggle a nuclear device into the United States and then to explode it, but then to use that as an excuse to have the United States blame Russia for them for basically planting a nuclear bomb, then to start World War III between the two superpowers because they want to basically destroy both those superpowers and then have a reemergence of the Nazi state, if you will. And in those two videos, we're going to watch really quickly a couple clips. This clip, I'm going to play it in its entirety. I really want you guys to hear it. It's talking about, so to give you context, in the movie, this is the point in the movie where this guy who's supposed to be like the bad guy, some kind of Nazi socialist guy who has been behind the planning of, making this nuclear bomb and taking it to the United States and doing this kind of thing. He's basically giving his, his dissertation of why he did it and why they did it to set up the U.S. versus the Russians. And I want to play this for you.
Most people believe the 20th century was defined by the death struggle of communism versus capitalism, and that fascism was but a hiccup. Today we know better. Communism was a fool's errand. The followers of Marx gone from this earth, but the followers of Hitler are bound and thrive. Hitler, however, had one great disadvantage. He lived in a time when fascism, like a virus, like the AIDS virus, needed a strong host in order to spread. Germany was that host, but strong as it was, Germany could not prevail. The world was too big. Fortunately, the world has changed. Global communications, cable TV, the internet. Today the world is smaller. And the virus does not need a strong host in order to spread. This virus is airborne. One more thing. Let no man call us crazy. They called Hitler crazy, but Hitler wasn't crazy. He was stupid. You don't fight Russia and America. You get Russia and America to fight each other. And destroy each other.
Yeah, so there you go. This sums it all up, basically. I mean, if you think about it, the message that's being delivered here is that there is a group of people who are trying to set up the Russians versus the Americans in this global war to get them to destroy each other so that they can win. I wonder who could be doing that. Chinese? Chinese? Excuse me, I have a bad cough. It sounds like I say Chinese when I cough. But, guys, seriously, think about it. Think about what this is implicating. Think about what Q's saying here, and think about why we have to basically dig more, do more research, and really trust our own gut when we do the research on this. Now, the next video is another scene, and this is with Ben Affleck, of course. None other than the Harvey Weinstein apologist and, friend to Hollywood sickos, Ben Affleck. But what this scene basically lays out is it's at the end of the movie, and it talks about how there were channels left open between the Russians and the Americans to stave off nuclear war. And to me, this is really important because maybe this is even, who knows, this could be a message to the Russians because we've lost contact and we're really butting heads on some issues. The reality is that we can't just trust Russia blindly, but at the same time, we have to recognize they are a superpower and we have to get along with them. So it has to be a balance. There has to be some diplomacy and there has to be some sort of tactful nature to that diplomacy. So we'll have to wait and see what that all ends up being. But here, I want to play this for you guys really quick.
Cabot did tell me he had a source in Russia. To keep the back channels open in hopes of staving off disaster.
And there you have it. It's talking about basically the takeaway from this is talking about keeping back channels open. And I think that's something that we have to look at in more poignant way. But it says, was Nazism ever truly destroyed? Was it merely a subdivision within a larger organization? One finger attached to a hand? Did Antifa organically form? Flag design a coincidence? Socialist push in U.S. worldwide coincidence? Global power struggle? There is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance. And it gives these two videos, which we've already seen. One is here, the President Reagan speech, where he basically lays out an incredible thing. I'll leave a link to this, and I might put articles up about each of these or post these as videos on the website. And another one that is talking about the speech that will get Donald Trump elected again. These are both incredible videos, and we always need to rewatch them because they're good videos, so why not? And then it goes to the We the People Q. So, I mean, guys, look, this is where we're going to leave it. This is the latest in the Q post. And I want you guys to all take this with a grain of salt and do your own research. And remember what Q said. Do your own research. Think logically for yourself. One thing I would never encourage anyone on this channel to do is just blindly take my word for it and not go out and do your own research and try to figure out your own conclusions based on your own in-depth research of it. Because what researching it does, that's what I basically do. I'm like an aggregator of information. I bring it together and then I put it for you guys to look at and then to use your own judgment in analyzing. But for you all to do it yourself, I know a lot of you are busy, you work, and it's not as easy, but you can do your own little bit of research. Just do a little bit. Look up articles, share articles with friends, get on your Facebook feeds, get on your social media feeds, spread articles that kind of talk about the truth that we're covering here, and that's really what we all have to do to get together to make a difference. Now, before we go, I want to mention something very important. First of all, here, I have justinformednews.com. Again, go to justinformednews.com. When you come here to the website, you get all my articles, all this new information. Again, like I've said in the past, we're in the beta testing stage of it. We're just basically working out the kinks. I know there's a lot of little things that don't work. I want you guys to leave your comments and your feedback about what works, what doesn't, what you like, what you don't like, so we can keep tailoring this website to become better for you guys as a resource to go look at. And if you want to get more talk, more Just Informed talk, come to justinformednews.com, because here on this website, I'll be writing articles, contributing daily, and you guys can get my insight on different things, things that we don't just talk about in the videos, but we also talk about here on the website. And I really am thankful for all of you guys who come over here and give me some support on justinformednews.com. It's pretty simple. justinformednews.com. Not a hard website to remember. You're here on Just Informed Talk. If you want to get involved, come over and find me on justinformednews.com. And like I said, I'll be writing, contributing. There'll be different stuff. And you guys can definitely get that as we get it more established. Once the website gets established, I know I have a lot of people reaching out wanting to contribute, to write their own posts, write their own articles. I'm really interested in that. But let me get this website up and running at its full functionality after we get through this beta testing to get out all the kinks. Once we get through that, I really want to bring people on, and I want to have people contributing. I want to make this like an open forum for contributions. So this is a great tool, and I really am thankful to everybody who comes over here to justinformednews.com and checks it out. Now, again, if you're looking for a way to support the channel, the best way to do it is to come over here to the landing page. Click the big red subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you can get a part of this channel. Spread these links, spread these videos, get them out to your friends and family. If you want to red pill someone, this is a great video to start with. Just say, hey, watch this video. It's about QAnon. If you're interested, you can get more information, and then you can continue your own research to figure out your own truth as you need to find it. And another way to support the channel is to come over here and find me on Twitter at Justin_formed. Once you come over here, it's pretty simple. Just find me at Justin_formed. Give me a follow, and I really appreciate that, and I'm thankful. And I always post my YouTube videos up here, my news articles from the website. All of that gets posted here on the Twitter, so it's a great place to get that information if you want to get those updates as they become available. Now, if you're looking to support the channel financially, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. One of the best ways to do it is to come over here to Patreon, patreon.com. When you come over here, you just search Just Informed Talk, click this button to become a patron. Once you do that, it's a monthly donation. If you're not interested in the monthly donation, I understand. Please come over here, find me on GoFundMe. It's gofundme.com/just-informed. Click that button to donate, and once you do, you can make a donation and keep this channel alive. Because you know what we go through every day with the craziness, and I basically my whole revenue is based off of advertising monetization dollars, revenue, and then donations from you guys to keep me running 24/7, 365, so I can keep bringing this information every single day. Now, that being said, I want to take a minute and talk about the most important thing. And I like that we always do this at the end because, like I've said 100 million times before, you guys are probably getting tired of it. I'm like a kid at Christmas. I save the best for last. And God's word is the best. And God's message is the best. And I know a lot of people, they want to comment and say, oh, well, you're not reading this Bible and you're not reading that Bible and you're not really a Christian and you're not really spreading the message because you don't understand it. I've heard this. I mean, I know you guys probably don't get that because you're in, not really in my position where I get feedback from thousands of people regularly. But I hear this sometimes. And the only thing I can say that is, God bless each and every one of you. If you have your own faith and you're strong in your faith, as long as you're not evil, as long as you're not bad, as long as you don't, discriminate against others, then I have no qualm with you. Be a Christian in your own way. Be a religious person in your own way. Have faith in your own way. But the message that I share here is for everyone. It's for everyone to understand that not only does God love you, but if you repent and you really live your life based off of God's principles and tenets, then you have this great gift, and it's eternal salvation, which has been given us through the sacrifice made by Jesus Christ. And in talking about that, I want to talk about the word of Christ, which is directly quoted here in the book of Matthew. It's chapter 11, verse 28 and forward. And I want to read this to you because I think it really speaks to those who have a wearisome or burdened heart. And I want to give you the words of our Lord that may help you and comfort you. It says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. All of you take up my yoke and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for yourselves, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And that is the beauty of it. A lot of people, I think, believe the message that they've been given by the mainstream media, by the culture that we live in, pop culture, and how they have TV shows about Lucifer and glorify that, and how they have literal shows called American Idol where they engage in idolatry, and where they have video games that promote violence. I mean, given you guys saw this shooting that happened in Jacksonville. Now, there's a reason I haven't covered it in depth is because there's nothing to cover. In my opinion, it was a very, very lost soul, psychotic soul, who went in and in this childish tantrum committed an act of violence. And that's what I've said before. That's what these video games do. They turn men and women into children. And it's how they rot your brain. It's how they make you a slave. It's how they make you into their minion. And then it's no wonder that some of these people, especially given this kid and his experience, snap, given the fact that he's on, antipsychotics and antidepressants, and he's in this virtual world that he can never truly conquer because it's basically all the deck's been stacked against them. I mean, anybody who enters into that world and believes that it's a competition when you're playing a video game that's been programmed by other people, you're pretty much a fool because you don't understand those algorithms have been designed to basically have it's like a coin toss for who wins and who doesn't, whether the catch is made, whether the shot goes down, whether the golf ball goes in the hole. When I look at these video game players, I think it's such a ridiculous thing. It's as ridiculous as the people who sit on slot machines every day and really believe that there's some, chance that they're going to win. The chances have been set. They're programmed. They're based off of algorithms. And what God's saying here is that I'm not an algorithm. If you're weary and burdened, you will receive rest if you put your faith in God. And that the yoke, which for those of you who don't know what a yoke is like a harness that you would put on like some kind of plowing animal, like a cow or a water buffalo if you're trying to plow a field. And the yoke is easy. It's what does it say here? It says, my yoke it says, take up my yoke because my yoke is gentle and humble in heart. It says, my yoke is easy. And it says, I am gentle and humble in heart. And that is what God is. That's what Jesus is. there is no prerequisite for coming into the movement of getting, revived by Christ, saved by Christ, to renewing your faith in Christ. There's no cost for entry. It's all it costs is you devoting yourself as a human to God, which is the most important thing, and understand that your eternal salvation is far more important than the material gain that you get on this earth, whether you make money or don't make money. I say this to my family all the time, and I mean it with every ounce of my being. If everything was taken away from me tomorrow, and I didn't have a single thing left, and as long as we have God, we'll be okay. And I look at them and they look at me, and we all agree. And that is more powerful than anything. They could take everything we have away, but they can never take what we have in God, in Christ, in our Savior. And with that, I want you guys to remember that God loves you, and that is one thing that if you pull into your heart and have in your heart, you will never have it taken away. So thank you for watching. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, now's a great time to do it. Come here, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit bell notifications. But that's going to be it for me. I want to say thank you for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.